I don't know many adult men who are Swifties. I'm curious to know if you were to become a fan of Taylor, would you admit it to people or you just keep it a secret to protect your music cred? I love that question. I don't have to admit anything. I get to just like whatever I like. It's a certain freedom I allow myself. In general, especially as you get older, anybody who's going to throw a bunch of rules at you about what you can like and what you can't like, you don't need to hang out with those people. It's okay.
Who am I? What do I do? Where am I from? What is my deal? Is that my cat? Who are these people? How old was I when I took that? Oh, look how adorable. Look at this dog.
Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. No musical intro today, because today we are going to be reading comments and questions from you, my lovely viewers, and from my even lovelier Patreon people. So today, that's what we're going to do. It's just going to be you and me. It's going to get real intense. It's going to get real intimate. We're going to talk about some real stuff here, okay? We're going to get real with each other. And I hope that's okay with you because that's what we're going to do. So, first question. Hello, I have two questions. In past videos, you said that you used to stay late playing at night. Are you not playing gigs anymore? Back when I was doing improv, sketch, and music, and being an actor, I was out 4 or 5 nights a week, either performing or watching friends perform. In LA, because there's so many little theaters and it's so hard to kind of get an audience or build an audience, you end up supporting your friends and being their audience too. Very, very different than now, which is the pandemic time. I will be playing gigs again soon. I just have to kind of refocus on it. And yes, one day I would like to tour, actually, but that's, pie in the sky for right now. Are you listening to Taylor, the songs you already reacted to? What is your favorite so far? Okay, it was 3 questions. Wildest Dreams is my favorite song by her so far. So I listen to music I have a giant shuffle list of all these songs. And when I listen to music, I like to kind of be surprised by the song I'm going to be listening to. So to make it onto the shuffle list is really, really difficult. And I will outline that shuffle list one day if people are interested. And I have listened to that one. I think I've listened to it at least once or twice since it's come around in the shuffle. And I legitimately listen to that song. That's a good song. Everything off of Folklore so far, I legitimately like. And I really want to make this clear. I think I've talked about this before, but I will never fake liking something. I know I'm very positive on my channel. So far, that's all been because people have recommended everything they want me to listen to by Taylor Swift or watch by Taylor Swift. So everything has kind of been up my alley as people kind of get my vibe and understand what I like. There's some of her songs that are a little bit too kind of bop and poppy for me, but that's okay. Not everything has to be for me. So for example, would I listen to We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together Again? It would be probably tricky for me to really want to listen to that song again because it is so kind of in that zone, poppy, repetitive. I talk about that song in more detail in another video. Please check that out if you're mad at me for saying that. I will say the one has actually kind of been in my head even when I haven't been playing it. You could have been the one. I like how she swoops into all those. How has your opinion of Taylor Swift changed as you've watched her performances, if at all? It is weird to not think of her as this kind of pop entity that's like the enemy of interesting creative music, especially as she's capable of creating interesting creative music. I definitely just kind of think of her. I just didn't really think of her before. I ignored her. When you're an artist, when you're a musician, a performer of any kind for long enough, it's hard not to respect another artist who can do it, especially who can perform live so well. I mean, she really does just have a very professional presentation when she performs. So even if you don't like her music, if you're a performer, I don't know how you couldn't really respect her poise and her chops in that way. I don't know many adult men who are Swifties. I'm curious to know if you were to become a fan of Taylor, would you admit it to people or you just keep it a secret to protect your music cred? I love that question. I don't have to admit anything. I get to just like whatever I like. It's a certain freedom I allow myself. There's so many different types of music and different types of musical people, musical lives that they've lived, there's no such thing as musical cred. The fact that Taylor Swift is considered a pop star and that hurts her kind of credibility, sure, I guess, but her credibility in what way? That she's a sincere artist? She seems like a sincere artist to me. You might not be interested in what she's talking about. That's fine. But she doesn't seem to be lying. She doesn't seem to be promoting, just trying to like sell I don't know. Maybe she is. Maybe she's doing that. Not in the stuff I've seen and that has been recommended to me. So if somebody were to ask me, do you actually like Taylor Swift? I'd say, yeah, I like this song. I like so far what I've heard from the Folklore album. And yeah, in general, especially as you get older, anybody who's going to throw a bunch of rules at you about what you can like and what you can't like, you don't need to hang out with those people. It's okay. Thank you so much because, yes, I would gladly admit to being a Taylor Swift fan. I don't know if I want to call myself a Swiftie just because I'm not super into joining groups, but that's a story for a different time. I'd love to know if you listen to or are familiar with any Brazilian music. I'm Brazilian. We have some really great musicians that have impacted the music world globally, but I feel that they aren't recognized to all people like Caetano Veloso, Gilberto Gil, and Jorge Benhor. There's a lot of amazing Brazilian guitar players and musicians in general. I remember a few years ago watching like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, something like that. The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, and it had a gentleman in it, a Brazilian guitar player who played all these versions of kind of classic rock songs.
Seguir sem pintar, eu não vi o seu filme, não sou de jogar. Você não sabe se vai ou vem, ou com seu poder vem do sol, minha medida, então vem, vamos viver a vida.
With that kind of nylon string, folky style. Brazilian artists have been hugely influential. I mean, Sergio Mendes, Mas Que Nada is a gorgeous song which has been in my shuffle list for years. You're absolutely right. They have inspired the world. What is your take, or where do you stand when musicians are problematic in their personal lives or associate with explicitly problematic people or their art? It is difficult for me to get into artists after I know something really awful about them. I don't think that they should be forced to go away. I don't think that they should be forced to be censored out of existence. I believe people should be able to create their art. But it's up to each person. If you don't care about somebody's personal life choices, whatever they've done, whatever crime they've committed, I don't think it's that evil for you to listen to their music and groove to it if it's not because you approve of that thing. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody were to dislike Marilyn Manson before, now that they hear that and then like get into him, that would be wrong. But it's for me, it would just be very hard because I know how like connected people get with their music and how hard it is to separate themselves from it, that I really wouldn't impugn somebody for continuing to like a song that they legitimately like, even if they hate what the person did. My guess is it probably just makes it harder for everybody to listen to once you find out that thing. It's everybody's own decision. I don't think if you put on R. Kelly, you're necessarily espousing that what he did was right or good. But I can also understand saying, I'm not going to play that because I don't want to promote it, because I don't want to offend people, I don't want to trigger people. So there's an argument in both ways. But I definitely wouldn't be just for saying don't listen to somebody because they did something. Especially if they've been accused and haven't necessarily been... I don't know anything about the Marilyn Manson situation, but if they've been accused or whatever. I mean, Kanye's hung out with some nefarious people. Kanye in general, though, I started listening to Kanye back in the day when he was working with Kweli.
Yeah. Yeah. We sell.
He really is a spectacular producer. I like his work, but yeah, politically I just don't really jive with him, so I kind of don't even pay attention to his deal as much as he's trying to get everybody to pay attention. This is from Sarah Both. Do you play any other instruments besides guitar? I can play some bongos and some bass, and I can play Lean on Me on the piano. But other than that, not really. Oh, and I can play the recorder. What made you decide to start a YouTube channel? How are you liking the journey so far? I love YouTube. I would love to have this be my main thing. I'm really liking the journey so far. I'm really gratified by everybody being so reacting so positively to what I've been doing. And I started because the production music thing that I was focused on at that time really kind of started to slow down, and I really liked a lot of different guitar YouTube channels, and I thought I could probably contribute my own kind of weird version of guitar YouTube channel, and so that's kind of what I wanted to do, and it's just been a really cool little area. I love YouTube because it is so free. I mean, free, you know what I mean. What is the most important element for you when listening to music, lyrics, production, etc.? If you think of an artist like Beck, a lot of his songs, especially early on, were lyrically very kind of just conceptual. And a lot of the times, even bands like REM or other kind of old school bands would write lyrics that weren't necessarily meant to say a specific thing, but were supposed to kind of be evocative.
In the time of chimpanzees, I was a monkey. Butane in my veins and a mouth to cut the chunky with the plastic eyeballs. Spray paint the vegetables, dog food stalls with the beefcake pantyhose.
Here's a sentence. Here's a phrase. They weren't necessarily linked in a way that a lot of other songs, for example, Taylor Swift songs often have a central theme or a central story or a central narrative that she's talking about. And I don't need the production to be anything specific. There's great, very highly compressed pop music that I like, and there's very great old school analog recording studio music that I love. Also, it's the kind of overarching groove. It's that emergent thing that comes from all the elements. It's the relationship between the vocal and the music, I think. I'm sure that's a very vague answer, but that's what it is. And Starbuck1234 says, hi and greetings from Denver. Hi, Starbuck1234. I wonder, are you a Moby Dick fan, or are you a Battlestar Galactica fan, or are you both? Okay, Alyssa H. How long have you been a musician, and what got you into music in the first place? I've been a musician probably since I was 8 or 9, when I started playing recorder in school. What got me into music? Music spoke to me when I was a kid. I remember the first music being played in the car that I can remember was Ray Charles. Aretha Franklin too. Again, I had some trauma in my childhood, and music was kind of a place that I went to soothe that, to find solace. And so music was always going to be a part of my life, whether or not I learned how to play guitar or not. I started playing guitar when I was about 11 or 12 because everybody at camp was doing it, and I really wanted to do it because I wanted to be like Kurt Cobain at the time, John Lennon, all the guitar people. What's my favorite song at the moment and/or of all time? This is a tricky one, and I've been thinking about this. My favorite song, I think, of all time would have to be a song called A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall by Bob Dylan. My favorite song right now is a song called Cheapness by Frank Zappa.
The jelly and paint on the 40 watt roll, the U's on the slimes, who's along, the rebels and the wrinkles and the cardboard, rock, yeah.
What is your favorite guitar type to play, acoustic or acoustic/electric? I played a lot more acoustic in my life, but recently I've been getting much more back into electric. But on a desert island, I'd go probably acoustic. Yeah, maybe even acoustic electric, depending on what the electricity situation is. If I can have an amp on the island too, I would go electric. What style of music is your favorite to play, and is it the same as your favorite music to listen to? Good question. My favorite music to play is old school folk blues style grooviness. I love funk music. I love getting funky with people. I love getting bluesy. I love to play a lot of different kinds of music. I'm better at those. And I like to listen to those. But I also love to listen to classical music. I love to listen to jazz. I'm trying to get better at jazz. Another whole thing I'm going to be sending you guys a video about soon. No, I have not watched it. Do you have a favorite artist of all time and favorite album and song by that artist or any other? Okay. My favorite artist of all time is I think if you ask me right now, it's Bob Dylan. But when I was a kid, I was obsessed with John Lennon. John Lennon and I had very there's similar kind of tragic histories, and I thought of us as like kindred spirits when I was a kid, even though he had already passed away. I idolized him. But I think Dylan is my favorite artist. I think his music has meant the most to me over the years. I'll also say Frank Zappa should get a nod because I probably listen to more Frank Zappa music right now than anything. So I'm going to give you 3 albums. John Lennon, Plastic Ono Band. Bob Dylan, Blood on the Tracks, / Desire. That's 3. And Apostrophe by Frank Zappa. Okay? Check out all 3 of those. Hey, Andrew, I'm interested in some of the music you like to listen to in your own time. What are your favorite rock bands, favorite jazz / blues artist bands? And do you like any metal? Okay, great. I love Frank Zappa. I love the Velvet Underground. I love Modest Mouse. I'm digging their new album a lot. It's kind of the old standard great dudes. Of course, I love Miles Davis. I love Joe Pass, Jim Hall, Oscar Peterson, Charlie Parker, Coltrane, Chick Corea. Rest in peace Chick Corea. I like metal more now that a lot of really cool metal musicians have YouTube channels because I like to see it. Favorite blues artists? More recently, Alvin Youngblood Hart.
You get there before I do. You get there before I do. And all my boys, I'm coming through. Coming through. Coming through. And all my boys, I'm coming through.
Hey Andrew, my question is: your guitar your full-time job, or do you have a day job? I have been a professional musician for the last 2 years-ish. I got my first production music contract in 2019, just before, well, about 6 months before, really, the pandemic. Production music is music being used for production, for commercials, online content, reality shows, a variety of different entertainment. And it is not the ideal thing for me, but it is a lot better than what I was doing before, which was being a personal assistant for a producer here in Hollywood. Well, in Hollywood. And I also earn a very small amount of money now from my YouTube and my Patreon, both of which I appreciate your participating in. Are there any popular contemporary artists that you plan to react to in the future? If so, who? Yes, Paramore, Haim, maybe Harry Styles. There's a bunch of ones that I actually asked people on my Patreon to name, and they named a bunch of people. I might do Lord's new album. We'll see. Olivia Rodrigo, but I really want to do live performances. That's what I'm going to be looking for. Two uncorrelated questions. What's your personality type, and what's your favorite food? I don't know what my personality type is. Maybe I would do that on here. Maybe do a reaction to that. My favorite food is my grandmother's macaroni and cheese. May she rest in peace. Okay, now let's read some comments. For me, she's an amazing guitar player. People always say she only uses the basic chords. Yes, and so what? Guitar playing is not only about playing bar chords. It is so much more than that. Yeah, absolutely. The complexity of what you play does not equal the quality of what you play. We talked about this in other videos, but you can play very, very simple music and have it be extraordinarily evocative for people. So absolutely agree with you. I've read the autobiography of Duff from Guns N' Roses. He took his family to a Taylor Swift concert. The next day, his wife and two daughters started to learn how to play the guitar. See, that's great. I mean, the guitar has really been a man's instrument. It's like a masculine instrument. We play it and we kind of emphasize it. As long as there's been guitar players, there's been good female guitar players. And for Taylor Swift to kind of create an image for young women to want to embrace playing the guitar, that's only a good thing. Duff McKagan is a nasty, nasty rhythm guitar player for the Guns N' Roses. I like Guns N' Roses a lot, especially the song Get in the Ring. She's just at the beginning of her career, 10 albums, 5 world tours, and multiple genre changes in 15 years. Am I a joke to you? Has she done alternative? Alternative now is such an odd genre, I don't even know how to describe it, so I'm sure she has. Yeah, but I mean, she's at the beginning of her career, as in she's a young person who clearly has a lot more to say as a musician. Taylor herself identifies as a songwriter first, and then a singer and guitar/piano player. She's not intending to be Carlos Santana or anything. LOL, the fact is she wouldn't be 15 years straight in the business with solid success if she wasn't talented. Again, not to be dismissive, doesn't matter to me. Just what you are as a musician is what you are. What you do first and what you consider your first skill, okay. That'd be a hard one for me to... I feel like I'm a much better singer when I'm playing guitar, and I'm a much better guitar player when I'm singing. So to me, it's like they marry together. Nobody with 3 AOTY Grammys is at the beginning of their career, LOL, but I definitely think she's at a point where she solidified herself as an artist and has a lot more freedom to explore genres, sounds. Would love to see her lean into the rock sound a bit more. So full disclosure, I don't know anything about the Grammys. I'm not dumping on the Grammys. I'm not saying they aren't an important thing. I just don't know anything about them, and they don't inspire what I listen to. Again, not trying to shit on the Grammys. She got a guitar as a gift when she was around 9 or 10 years old. She didn't mind playing it because, according to her fingers were too small. Then a guy that her family hired to fix her computer saw the guitar on the corner and taught her a few chords. The next day, she couldn't stop playing it and eventually wrote her very first song called Lucky You. From then on, she couldn't stop playing guitar till her fingers were bleeding. That's the classic thing, is you play until your fingers bleed. Not to be gross, but you do. I mean, there's sharp metal strings, obviously, unless you're playing a nylon string, and you have to form calluses on the tips of your fingers before you can really press down on those strings really hard and not have it hurt. And often that requires some blood. I will tell you a story about Stevie Ray Vaughan very quickly that's very, very gross. His calluses, he used to play so much that his calluses would fall off, and he'd glue them back onto his raw, kind of open flesh and continue playing because he was so raw and real, bro. Mary, to answer the politics question, she's on the left and was very anti-Trump. Her joke asking if anything was going on in D.C. was because the impeachment was going on around this time. Oh, I didn't realize that. The first impeachment. Also, fun fact you might be interested to know, she first learned on a 12-string guitar as a kid because a guitar player teacher told her she wouldn't be able to play one because her hands were too small, and she was insisting on proving him wrong. Oh, it was a 12-string guitar. Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, 12 strings are harder because there's 12 strings and they're metal. Taylor actually gets quite a few haters and sexist comments about her music and lyricism only because her fan base is mostly women and teenagers. Then she wouldn't be recognized as a great lyricist if only her fans were, well, old boring men, as you said. There is even interviews of someone seriously saying that in television. Absolutely appalling. It's really easy for people to fall into their insecurity if they see a woman, especially a woman with a guitar. Again, it's always been considered like a manly kind of affectation. If they're insecure about their anything, if they're insecure about any sort of gender or sexual issue, that's going to bring it up for them. And we have rampant issues with that in our culture. Not going into it. Taylor 2014, boys only want love if it's torture. You, number one, stop dating boys. Well, one, stop dating boys. Let's graduate to men here. Yeah, stop dating boys. Taylor 2020, I'm begging for you to take my hand, wreck my plans. That's my man. So she found a man. Good for her. Date men, women. Girls date boys. Okay. Let's jump out of this topic. I think the song is far easier to understand when you realize it's great because it's 100% sarcastic. She's written a song from the perspective of a character, the manipulative serial dater girl that the media paints and is 100% not herself. So it's the ultimate parody. Rather than be upset because she hates the media, she becomes the character of her song and makes the joke better. She also did this with her entire Reputation album after being canceled as a snake by Kanye and Kim Kardashian. And I didn't know she was canceled by Kanye and Kim. Yeah, I think people don't understand, probably wouldn't assume that she's being sarcastic again because she's a pretty blonde-haired girl, and those people aren't necessarily considered sarcastic. I don't know why. Okay, this is from Lex. Taylor Swift's touring band is called The Agency. What is cool is many of the members have been with her since her first tour, like Paul Sidoti, guitar/vocals, and Mike Meadows, guitar, keyboard, vocals, or even before she ever headlined anything, like Amos Heller, bass vocals, Dave Cook, musical director, keyboard. She has been with her second tour. Matt Billingsley, drums, her third tour, and the last to join, that's current active, was who joined her fifth most recent tour. Taylor has a good relationship with her band. When she used to vlog for MySpace back in the 2000s, early 2010s, Max Bernstein, guitar, keyboard, they'd be in the videos a lot, just hanging out or making skits together. Long Live, a song off her Speak Now album, is dedicated largely in part to her band. Many are active on social media and all have positive sayings about her, including former members. The ones that left are generally either pursuing their own music or, in the case of Emily Fiddle, she is now a lawyer. None left on bad terms. Taylor shouts out her band every tour stop, and you can see their faces and positions in the credits on the Reputation tour movie on Netflix. When Taylor went to record Fearless, she had her tour band do the instrumental since they've played the song so many times together over the years. Wow. A lot of stuff there. I think we always assume that there's going to be some sort of falling out and that people aren't going to like each other. But musicians, man, we're pretty chill people, you know? We got the music to kind of soothe us. You know, we can be sad, certainly, but we can chill out. You know, there's not a lot of fighting in the music business. Well, there's some. I mean, there's mosh pits, but even mosh pits don't turn into fights. She has a lot of songs that are just for fun. She's either making fun of herself, like in Blank Space or 22, or somebody else, like Shake It Off. And this one, she made this a super poppy song because her ex, Jake Gyllenhaal, hated pop music, and she wanted to make sure he heard this song everywhere on the radio because he kept wanting to get back together. I love Petty Taylor, okay? She wanted Jake to hear this song everywhere. I remember hearing it everywhere. So thanks, Jake Gyllenhaal. Even though I kind of like the song, it is very poppy, and it would be, like I've said, it would be hard for me to continually listen to it. But I mean, that's funny. That's a funny thing to do. And fuck people who don't like your music. Who cares? Death by a Thousand Cuts. Fun fact: the My harmonies are a reference to the lyric "You're my lover" from the title track "Lover." Oh, okay. I thought somebody else said that they were my. Like Neil Young. The Dylan influence would make sense. She has said in many interviews that some of her inspirations are Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell, and Carole King. Yeah, you can absolutely hear those. So that's where the 60s, 70s vibes come from. She has a song from this same Lover album called Miss Americana and the Heartbreak Prince. We're going to watch that documentary eventually. She seems folk and country to me. Taylor has always craved the recognition from her peers not as a successful act, but as a talented one. For a lot of years, people doubted Taylor's talent because of being a main pop girl, and if you follow her career and interviews and understand why she wrote Speak Now by herself, you understand that deep down, even after Reputation, she is just deeply insecure about how people respected in the industry view her as a true peer and not just as a pop girl. It'd be so hard for me to imagine somebody who actually makes music not respecting somebody who's able to put out music and have people liking it. Maybe you don't like her music, but you have to respect what she's done. So I understand what you're saying, that she wanted to be respected as a musician, as a singer. I think she probably has earned that. It's cool to be respected by your peers, absolutely. But if the type of music you play or you like isn't respected by your peers, also don't let that be a reason not to. Because I mean, maybe the lesson there is like, look at what Taylor Swift did for years when she didn't feel like she was respected by her peers. She still continued to make music as she wanted. Make music that you want, and hopefully people will respect you for it. I think the reason why Joe used a pseudonym was to prevent the media from focusing on him as her boyfriend being a part of the album rather than the album itself when the album first came out. And then the later reveal was to help start conversation on the album again, as a fun fact. it's fun, yeah, to create secrets and myths about things or to have rumors spreading around. Also, just so you know, Joe and Taylor write the most sad, fucked up songs together because they both love sad songs, not because they have gone through any rough patch that we know of. I've never dated another songwriter, actually. Checking. And I've definitely never, like, song written with somebody that I'm seeing. I'd imagine it's a very kind of cool, intimate way to connect with somebody. Taylor is very protective of her relationship with Joe. She rarely ever talks about him because she fears that something bad might happen to them because of the media. She's learned from her last relationships. She has just started to open up about him, but very briefly, and it took her about 4 years to talk about him this much. Anyway, this is probably why his real name wasn't used. And honestly, I think the only reason she revealed that Joe was William Bowery is because fans started speculating a lot, ha ha ha. So she just decided to throw us the bone. Interesting. I that actually kind of makes a little bit more sense to me, but I can imagine scrutiny on non-media scrutiny will end relationships. Just being out in public, being seen by friends will put pressure on a relationship. So I can only imagine. I could also imagine, though, that like trying to hide him or whatever. I mean, he's an actor, isn't he? Like, doesn't he have a public life? But I can actually also imagine it might yield the opposite. I don't know. Joe has a Grammy now, so he's doing fine. Great. Good for him. Yes, that is Jack Antonoff. He and Taylor have been close friends and collaborators since 2013. She's actually the first artist he produced for. He said no one trusted him to produce until everyone saw she did. Then the door was wide open. It's wild to think if they hadn't met and become friends, we might not have one of the most important producers and some of the biggest albums of the last decade. Jack Antonoff, who was in a huge band called Fun and other, you know, he does huge projects. I'm surprised they wouldn't let him produce. Maybe it was other big acts wouldn't let him produce them, and Taylor was probably the first big act. That's my guess. Rebecca was demonized for being a free spirit and was blamed for the Dynasty to crumble. Taylor brought the house decades after, and she was demonized for having parties and being the loudest woman this town had ever seen. Oh, okay, so she was partying too. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I didn't know she was such a party animal, but why not? Hi, Andrew. This song is about Rebecca Harkness, the founder of Harkness Ballet, one of the biggest ballet schools in the world. She was Salvador Dali's best friend. She became new money when she married the heir of a big oil company. New money being people who just inherited money or got money rather than people who inherited it before. Taylor, 50 years later, bought the house she lived in, Rhode Island. I love this song. It's my favorite from the album because of the way she compares herself to Rebecca, two women who got rich and famous but were treated like shit from the high society and called crazy, shameless, and loud too. The more I learn about the Rebecca Harkness person, the more cool she seems. Cautions you take while talking about stuff regarding Taylor and her music always cracks me up so much. A grown-ass man being terrified of Swifties on the internet will never not be funny to me. I love how well-crafted your videos are and how thoughtful and educational your reactions are. Thank you for putting up with us, and please keep them coming. I will keep them coming. And like I say, I think I respond to this. Yeah, I'm not terrified of Swifties, but I just don't want people to. I don't want to be wrong. You know, I've taken down videos before because I've been wrong about something. I mislabeled one of Steve Vai's guitars as an Ibanez when he was playing a Music Man. No, when he was playing a Charvel. No, when he was playing I labeled it as a Ibanez, but it was a copy of a Charvel by Jackson. And I thought it was his signature guitar. And that video got so many dislikes. It didn't get dislikes because I was wrong about that particularly, although some people did, but because I didn't like this particular movie that I was reacting to. I thought it was silly, and I thought it portrayed music, the blues, in a kind of a weird way, and people took it really personally. And that video is available on my Patreon too. But I just don't want to be wrong. If people disagree with me, that's probably a good thing. It's probably good for my channel. So don't worry. I don't want Taylor Swift fans to get mad at me, but I also. They don't seem really that irascible, and so far they don't seem like I've said critical things. They don't seem to be too upset with me, so knock on wood. From my Phoebe Bridgers video, you avoided talking about politics when that was likely the whole point of the performance. There was miscommunication between the people in the song, the patriotic, religious imagery, intentional dissonance in some of the instrumentation, ending in the violence of smashing things mindlessly. The performance was a few weeks after the January friendly tourist visit in D.C. Thanks for posting the date, might explain the dramatics. Ending the song in senseless violence seems theatrical, but in this context, just part of the times we are living in. Okay, I can see that, certainly. Did she write the song as a response to that? My guess is the song has been around for a while. She probably chose the song maybe in response to that and then emphasized the things you're talking about with the violence. I wasn't thinking of it in connection with that. I appreciate you letting us know that that was right around the time. Of course, I didn't even think about the date at the time. I remember there was a lot of discussion at the time about what statement, if any, Phoebe wanted to convey with this performance. As far as I'm aware, she hasn't said much about her intentions behind it, but some people have said that she was making a statement about the current state of the rock/guitar music. Phoebe is the face of a new era of guitar-based music that for the first time is largely dominated by women. Whether this was her intention or not, the smashing of the guitar seems to be, to me, like Phoebe is saying that the age of male rock stars living lavish rock and roll lifestyles and singing songs that objectify women is over, and she and her peers, young, mostly queer women, are here to take their place. Oh, I didn't realize her peers are mostly queer. So I don't know if the era of men objectifying women in rock songs is over. I don't know if the era of men objectifying women is over. I hope that it comes to an end someday. I'd love to see women dominate the guitar scene. That'd be awesome. I have no problem with that at all. He says suspiciously. Music as itself is a way for people to connect and not a way necessarily for people to dominate. So my hope is that there's room for the sexual objectification of men and women. The horn/key change thing that happened at the end isn't contrived for the show. It happens in the album version too. That's just the song. Also, she had a guitar specifically made to smash. She didn't smash an expensive guitar. She also auctioned off the guitar after. I'd imagine it's probably about $1,000 guitar. To me, that's an expensive guitar, but it's not in the spectrum of fancy guitars. It is not. Dan Electros are really cool. I'm not going to take back my stance that they're cool and I don't like them smashing. I've already talked about my feelings on the smashing. But good to know that about the key change. I agree that it wasn't well done. However, I also think that there's something to be said about the fact that men have been smashing guitars and other instruments on stage for years in rock history, and people applauded. Now that a woman did it, all of a sudden we have this respect for the guitar and everyone has a problem. Bridgers is a bisexual woman who's making a statement, and the fact that people are showing their sexism in response is exactly what she wanted. Let a woman smash a guitar/monitor in peace. I agree. I don't know if people celebrated smashing of guitars, but it definitely became accepted, and some people definitely celebrated it. A lot of people were really freaked out. A lot of people didn't like it, but the coolness, the kind of devil may care, like smashing the system down, was kind of how it was seen, and they were given that benefit of perspective. And Taylor Swift has never really, and Phoebe Bridgers is not given that benefit of perspective because she is a woman. I appreciate the emotional connection to the song. It does hit home. To me, the thing about tantrums isn't so much saying that everyone should yell and scream when they don't get their way. It's more of a recognition that as a kid you simply are, and you respond in your natural, essential, real way that you do because you haven't assimilated to the rules. Sure, yeah, exactly. Constraints and expectations of adulthood. I feel like this is a love song to innocence and realness of childhood as much as it is about this particular friend she speaks of. I agree. That's really well put. There is something meaningful and primal and real you experience as a kid that leaves us as we grow up, and it's sad. I've cried to this song too. I love how people Yeah, I'm unafraid of crying or tearing up. I'm like 6'5" and just really huge in general. And so when you're a larger guy, you get to cry. You get to be more emotional. This song gave me a big breakthrough in therapy in accepting the trauma and abuse I experienced growing up. I equally felt bad for the kid whose dad was always mad, and I related to them at the same time, and it made me realize and accept something I'd always downplayed. There's so many things that'll happen like that in life where you'll see it in somebody else or in another situation, and you'll be able to be objective, and you're like, oh, well, that's a really abusive situation. And then you'll kind of, oh, shit, I'm in that situation. And that's amazing. Congratulations. Let me write back to you right now. I'll write back to you right now. This is my favorite song off Folklore, and it's not just because I live in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is so associated with summertime, I feel like. Well, maybe just for me. I always interpreted the line, but I was high in the sky, as pointing out how large everything seems when you're a kid. 7 feet high on a swing really isn't that scary or high, but as a child, that can become so much more than it actually is, and things are so much more drastic and hold more weight as a kid. Also, I've heard people say, I hit my peak at 7 is a subtle reference to Taylor's album Lover, which is her 7th studio album, the first one that she owns herself. The line about the haunted house and her friend's dad always spoke to me the most because it exemplifies how children interpret the world. Yeah, I agree, especially the bad in it. The child just can't make sense of the father's anger, so they rationalize it and they create a narrative that they can, with ghosts and fantastical things because they can't yet see the cruelness of the world. Anyway, love the video and analysis of the song. Excited for the next upload. Thank you very much. So there it is. A little bit about me, a little bit about my opinions. I'll be happy to answer more questions and comments as they come up, but for now, I hope this was helpful for you. And thank you so much for checking out my channel. Thank you so much for supporting me. Thank you so much for being so incredibly positive and kind, and you make me a happier person. I'm edging towards happy. I'm getting towards happy. Let me say edging towards happy. I am actually becoming a happy person, and just really fun and really cool to kind of get all this input from all these different people from everywhere. And it's just been really fun. Thank you so much. And until next time, keep playing.